Try this. In your mind's eye, picture a brilliant night sky. Thousands of points of light against a midnight black. Something you should know is that half of those points of light are actually two stars. Two companion stars so far away from us and so close to each other that to us, they appear as a single point of light. That's a very brief excerpt from my project, The Gift. The story of this work begins over 6 years ago when I met my colleague and co-creator Natalie Gosnell in Colorado. Natalie is an observational astrophysicist, which means that she uses data from telescopes in outer space and on the ground to tell stories about our universe. In particular, Natalie looks at the science of companion stars. Her research focuses on stars that, at the end of their lives, give almost all of their matter to a nearby companion. Something that Natalie said to me when we first started working together was that she was super frustrated that the media covering her research kept referring to this phenomenon of stellar mass transfer in really violent, extractive terms like stellar cannibalism or stellar vampirism. And as Natalie and I embarked on a multi-year journey of art-science co-creation alongside our colleague Andrew Kircher, what we really aimed to do was shift out of this framework of violence and fear and domination being the terms through which we understand outer space, and into a framework of care, relationship, and complexity as the way that we tell stories about this universe we inhabit together. Instead of reverting to these extractive metaphors, we chose a more complex telling of the story, a gift. So we designed an immersive experience called The Gift, with accessibility at its core. We wanted to create a welcoming place, an invitation to encounter fundamental, personal, and human questions by being in relationship with the stars. I'm Janani Balasubramanian, and this is Encounters. On today's episode, I'm sitting down with Srinija Srinivasan. Srinija is a visionary, a practitioner at the intersection of art, commerce, and technology, and my friend. She recently finished her tenure as one of the trustees of Stanford, and happens to be one of my favorite people to go on walks with. My conversation with Srinija connects with a lot of the core intentions and themes of The Gift. In Srinija's practice and in our conversation, she brings together several threads connecting not only art and science, but also the sacred and the secular, research and co-creation. But before diving in with Srinija, we're going to take you to a few field scenes from the presentation of The Gift at Memorial Church. When I was working with Stanford Arts to plan out my residency, we were thinking about where to present this project, The Gift. And I got really excited about Memorial Church. Partly because it's a super beautiful venue right in the heart of the main quad, and because its architecture and ornamentation naturally invite wonder and awe. But I also wanted to make clear through the choice of space that the goals of science are not so far from the goals of sacred practice, to explore and confront fundamental questions.
Want to call an audible at all?
Yeah.
Maybe just give me this.
Okay.
But otherwise, we'll be at the ready, so when you go da 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 da.
We were also able to collaborate with the School of Medicine Orchestra, which is composed of students and employees of Stanford Medicine, to perform a live rendition of the score that my fellow alum Tina Hanai Miller wrote for the project.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
for doing this.
Yeah, it's a real joy for us to hear the music played live. We sing it in our heads all the time, but to hear it played live is really such a privilege.
Thank you for transposing it out of the 5 flats.
Yeah, right? That's Solomon.
Hoping to rely on
I think we can open in 5.
So just follow me.
The Gift is an immersive installation that animates Natalie's astrophysics research and opens up metaphorical space for grief, care, and renewal. The experience is composed of an all-ages illustrated book accompanied by an enveloping musical score. Participants are invited into a music-filled reading room where, when a seat becomes available, they sit down and read the book, which invites interaction, both tactile and emotional, and connects this phenomenon of transfer of material between stars to human experiences of loss and change. Throughout the event, my producer Taylor captured a few audience responses to The Gift.
You just went inside. Tell me about what you experienced.
Yeah, it was beautiful. So the church was amazing. The scene was beautiful. The music was playing, quite holy in nature. And then I read the story about what happens. I feel a little bit more connected with our sun, our burning bright star, beautiful star in its prime. And I love that question about whether I'm in my prime. I'll have to think about that one. I learned about how, stars give the gift of energy to one another, and a lot of our natural world is very generous and also very present in the knowing when it's time to do that, and how we can learn a lot of lessons from our natural world as humans to be more generous and more connected with everything around us.
Definitely gave me interstellar vibes, for sure. There's a lot of themes there about reaching across time and all this really powerful stuff that makes me think about Interstellar.
I thought the part about the idea of the gift being one that you give when you die, that people still, or beings still remain, that is a gift to others, that it doesn't end. Life doesn't end with death, but actually maybe even begins.
I was also really touched by that. I'm really touched by the transferal of life rather than this sort of birth and death cycle, but it seems like a constant sort of energy. I also really loved the location of this performance project, I don't know what to call it, but because of the ornamentalism of the church, adds a majestic quality and this sort of transcendent quality that I think accentuated the text of the book.
That's all. Thank you.
It was really meaningful to me to bring the gift back to my alma mater, to be able to share how various forms of inquiry feel connected to me, to show the threads of meaning pulsating between the personal and the cosmic, between art and science, between sacred and empirical knowledge. I've always felt those things can coexist and thrive alongside one another. That together these forms of inquiry can help us approach and deal with fundamental, universal experiences like loss and change. Actually, the place that it would be fun to start, and you can take this question however you want to take this question, but I'm curious how you would describe your practice. What does that mean to you?
I love the question because I don't know that I have a practice. I've never intentionally had what I consider a practice. However, at some point a dozen years ago, I had a kind of epiphany, and I've always loved the word practice, and I love how it has all these different meanings. I can practice the piano, I can have a law practice, I can have a meditation practice, like these really different contexts, And so what is that? That's the whole point. We're practicing. So I don't have to be excellent at it. I don't have to have figured it out, but I can practice. So in that respect, I've come to really try. It sounds maybe really lofty and grandiose, but my practice is this life. Life is practice. It's all practice, everything. How I get up, how I show up, how I brush my teeth, what conversations I'm having today, this thing right now, to get to spend this afternoon with you is practice of attending to a certain quality of attention.
That's really beautiful and resonates with me in so many ways because I think, well, in the arts, artistic practice has such specific connotations in the vein of, okay, your artistic practice is the things that are legible to us as the creation of the art, like what goes into the art creation. It's the output. It's output-oriented, and that framing has never resonated with me. For me, my practice is so much more rooted in relationships, in discovering questions as various compasses, in inhabiting contexts and spaces and communities and institutions. Like that, to me, is my practice. Are there aspects of your personal background or history that have led you to practicing in the way that you do?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I feel so lucky that I was born kind of fish out of water, this immigrant experience, this Hindu in Kansas. You know, this is a very specific contrast.
Basically been there.
Right? Yeah. And as a kid, I have no words for this. I'd have no ability to make coherent sense of this. But as I got older and, you know, you leave your home and you're able to reflect on it and see it, and you're a little older and you have more vocabulary, and I was able to see what was happening. And it was actually so useful because I think from an early age, I was in this inside household cosmology where the divine is in me as it is in you, as it is in everyone and everything. Mm-hmm. But then I was in this outside cosmology that God is out there perfect and man is right here a sinner. And that is, those are incompatible worldviews. And I think it was pretty, more than being brown in Kansas, it was being non-Christian in the Midwestern American Christian sensibility of that 20th century thing, where it wasn't even an acknowledged explicit Christianity because we were in the secular liberal oasis of a university town, Lawrence, Kansas. Great, 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 beautiful place to grow up, wonderful community, wonderful public schools, you know, all that. So the cognitive dissonance for me was, wait, all of this is so great. Why does it, like, what's the problem? What's going on in my mind that there's just war going on? Since we're rigged to not actually know how all this works and what we're doing here, what does it feel like to believe that the divine is in me as it is in you and everyone?
You are someone who has various engagements with the arts in kind of your present context. And I'm curious in your life path when those turns or shifts or turning to the arts, or maybe it was always present for you, when do those happen?
My first piano lessons, I think, were at the age of 3. My first voice lessons starting at the age of 5, saxophone throughout junior and high school. So, you know, all the choir, band, recital, concert, blah, 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 all that stuff pervaded my childhood. But it wasn't all I did. Like, I was an Indian girl that got good grades. You know, I did the thing. So, but I realized, like, at the time, I was just gifted with parents who had a reverence for the arts. My dad was a mathematician. My mom really is a polymath. First master's in Sanskrit, second master's in art history, taught art history at the Kansas City Art Institute when I was growing up, and then did a pivot in midlife towards computer science before that was fashionable. I was watching all these things happen. But as a mathematician, my dad, too, had a great reverence for art and artists and would help sponsor artists to come to the University of Kansas and, like, crash in my brother's bedroom and play concerts and, you know. And so as we were trying all these different things, I kept being drawn to art and artists. People ask me if I'm an artist sometimes because I've been involved in the arts so much in both coasts, and I always say, no, I'm artist adjacent. Because I think as a kid, it was just a recognition oh, this is my tribe, these are my people. And it had something to do with their quality of attention. It had something to do with their insistence on curiosity and discovery and joy and creativity, as opposed to just the sort of quotidian get stuff done, that whole output thing. Now, having had a life immersed in tech and in science and in the practical earthly stuff of building a life, I'm just so interested in what is about the human consciousness that at our, I think, highest and deepest level have crafted a technology to explore and express that consciousness. We call it art when we do it. And how can we attend to that and let that guide all the stuff, the problems we're solving in this material earthly existence?
You know, I know a number of people, a handful of people, yourself included, who are identifying this sort of artist-adjacent way. And I'm always so curious about it because I'm curious what brings you all to that love of being artist-adjacent, because I witness in each of you some shared modes of operation in how you build community and seek out artists for this kind of community.
Like, we have to have an agreement about this reality, that so-called reality of ours. And if we agree that we're more than bags of bones, let's start there. We're in Silicon Valley, like we're in this tech center where there is not agreement about this. We're in a hyper-rational, analytical, material, empirical world here where I am not confident that there is broad agreement that we are more than bags of bones operating under mechanistic physical laws. And if we're not in agreement on that, then I don't even know how to have a conversation. I don't even know what we're doing here. I just don't even know the point. We have a line on creation. We are co-creators. This consciousness is world-making, as you say. And I just think that art is what we call it when in human form we manifest something of the divine in us.
Yeah.
And so that is literally our creative capacity.
Yes.
We can make realities.
Yes.
But we have to start with an agreement that there's more to this reality than meets the eye.
Yes.
If we can start there, now it's endless. Now it goes to what are all these questions? This is why I love to follow your curiosity. Like, the questions are their own answer. They take you, propel you to what's next. And it's endless miracles unfolding because you couldn't have known. If I'm encountering art that speaks to me, I just feel so alive because all these affirmations of my aliveness and also all these curiosities about, but what is that and where can it go? They're all activated. And I don't think it's about judging or telling you should have done it this way or that way. It is just about taking it as your expression and saying, so what of it for me?
Yeah.
Now we're in a conversation. And I would assume if you've created the thing, that you might be curious about how that landed here.
I have a little passage to read to you that I picked out, not by me, but by the poet Muriel Rukeyser, but about art being a meeting place or a meeting point. The relations of poetry are very close to the relations of science. It is not a matter of using the results of science, but of seeing that there is a meeting place between all kinds of imagination. Poetry can provide that meeting place. Skipping a bit. A poem is not its words or its images any more than a symphony is its notes or a river its drops of water. Poetry depends on the moving relations within itself. It is an art that lives in time, expressing and evoking the moving relation between individual consciousness and the world. The work that a poem does is a transfer of human energy. And I think human energy may be defined as consciousness, the capacity to make change in existing conditions. To accept poetry in these meanings would make it possible for people to use it as an exercise, an enjoyment of the possibility of dealing with the meanings in the world and in their lives.
Oh, wow, that's magnificent.
I know.
I mean, it's not a cop-out. It's not.
No.
We're in such a results-oriented, answer-motivated, solutions-driven, talk about collective consciousness. This modern Western thing we've made is so obsessed with control and prediction and knowing, and it's literally killing us. We're literally self-terminating over the need to control. And meanwhile, while we're doing this, every tree is miraculously breathing out the exact thing I need to breathe in right now. And it's just doing it all day. I mean, I guess that's a deliverable, but it's just being.
No, we can't refer to oxygen as a deliverable. I refuse this premise. I think the sense of humility is also what has drawn me for years to many things, because every time I'm encountering a new research community, I go with so much not knowing.
Yeah.
I think particularly in astrophysics, but essentially any kind of scientific field, we are working and dealing with things that are grander and vaster than we can really contend with. So humility is really the only approach. If we're thinking about, okay, what is non-esoteric knowledge and art and lessons that can be brought to people from sort of the edges of scientific knowledge, one of its primary functions is to situate us in acknowledgement of our own wonder and splendor and our own humility.
We've talked a lot about humility, but it's always right next to the marvel that we're consequential.
Yeah.
There's a reason to get up every morning, you know? Just to puzzle over and then try to do something with that. The humility and the consequential nature of us. It's like art is our greatest technology for exploring and expressing collective consciousness. It helps us explore and express imagination for certain. And in this hyper material, rational, linear kind of modern Western world, we really just give such short shrift to the miraculous and the possible. And I think cultivating imagination is maybe the most important and least understood capacity right now, you know? This is why I'm artist adjacent. This is why, it's because it's a way to be constantly attending to what nourishes, nurtures, makes possible creativity itself, and what stifles it. Where do we get in our way? What if we're not here to know the things and solve the things? What if we're here to be our greatest selves, porously, permeably, with life on Earth as it's unfolding? This human body, like a giant gill, you know, taking in and breathing out this life that's unfolding. What if just doing that is making more life possible? What if the doing of that is what makes worlds? I'm just in collaboration and connection with other kindred spirits who just are jazzed about some similar stuff. And then guess what? We end up making stuff. Like you can see it and it's empirical and material and you can say, look, Mom, we did that. But the best things happened because we were enthralled in the questions and what propelled us into those questions and in each other. And wait, what do you know that I don't know? And then what do I know that you don't know? And then what if we put those together, you know? If we really are curious and interested and exhilarated by refining better questions, and we do it together, and we find the ones who care about these questions, you know? I just think solutions happen.
Well, thank you for joining me today, Srinija.
Oh, what
this
a delight!
So
Always, it's
Yeah.
always. It's just It is. It's affirming and expansive. Your company is affirming and expansive.
I'm so grateful to have gotten the chance to get to know you the past couple years, and I'm looking forward to more. Yeah. I want to thank Srinija again for joining us on the podcast, and to thank my collaborators, Natalie and Andrew, and the folks who came out to Memorial Church to experience the gift. In our next episode, we'll explore astrophysics and metaphor. I'll be sitting down with Susan Clark, professor of physics here at Stanford and a scientist at the Kavli Institute for Particle Astrophysics and Cosmology. Subscribe to Encounters wherever you listen for future episodes, and follow Stanford Arts on social media for more updates.
From Stanford Arts, this is Encounters. Janani Balasubramanian is our host. The show is created, produced, and edited by me, Taylor Jones, with additional production support by Edi Dai. Chase Everett is our mixing engineer and sound designer. Our theme song and music is composed by Everett. Executive producers are Ellen O. and Ann Shulock. Series artwork is by Connie Ko. Special thanks to Susan Clark, Tsachy Weissman, Deborah Cullinan, Stanford Vice President for the Arts, and Stanford Live. Encounters is recorded at Bing Concert Hall at Stanford University and supported by the Stanford Visiting Artist Fund in honor of Roberta Bowman Denning.